Just gone past 8:35, and it's time for our lead current affairs program on the island on a Monday night, Beyond the Headlines. I'm your lead facilitator this evening, Odette Campbell, and this evening we have a high kind of issue to discuss. We remember Rita Marley for that reggae, I want to get high. Well, we're not going to get high. We're going to discuss the high. Tonight, we're talking about the proposed decriminalization of marijuana. We know it has been a topical issue here in the last 6 months or so. And this evening, we'll be joined by Dr. Fletcher. He's a lead consultant at Campeche International. Mr. Eugene Gittens, who's a sociologist, and Mr. Syisha Williams, the president of the Grenada Herbal Foundation. And to assist this evening with the conversation, our co-host, let's see now. Our co-host is the one and only, wonderful, lovely Cassandra Mitchell. Last week, Cassandra joined us as co-host. We know for the last 2 months, we have been having guest co-hosts. And let me just ask the two gentlemen who've gathered, do you have any problems with Cassandra being your co-host? Would you like to drop out? Now is your opportunity. Anybody would not like to be co-hosted by Cassandra? Those of the opposite opinion say aye. All right, all jokes aside, Cassandra, it's all over to you, my girl. Microphones on, everybody.
Thank
Cassandra.
Thank you so much, Odette, and it's a pleasure being here this evening to talk about the whole issue of the legalization or decriminalization of marijuana, whichever way it works out for us. We want to go right into it, and I want to just give a background on the presentation on the report of the CARICOM Commission on marijuana. And the reason why I'm just giving a short background is because the consultations held here in Grenada sometime earlier this year would have been on the backdrop of that report. So across the CARICOM, the existing legal regime criminalized the use and possession of marijuana. The heads of government recognized the need for law reform in this regard. They therefore set up the CARICOM Commission in 2014 to be an independent body to depoliticize the issue and guide the way forward. The Commission undertook its own research, including the conduct of polls, commissioned a report on the economic potential of marijuana. And they concluded in their work by listening to the people of the region through a series of consultations across the CARICOM member states. The consultations comprise of town hall meetings and focus group discussions with specific groups of stakeholders, as we have seen in Grenada earlier this year. A review of the data showed that people from poor and marginalized communities were disproportionately arrested and incarcerated for the use of and possession of marijuana because they were unable to pay the hefty fines associated with penalties. In the consultations across the region, citizens shared their voices or their stories of trauma as a result of the enforcement of the legal regime pertaining to marijuana. Persons, including seniors and persons with disabilities, were unable to access cheaper, more effective medicinal marijuana, and if they did, they ran the risk of being arrested and incarcerated. Members of the Rastafarian faith, for whom marijuana was part of their religious sacrament, were also persecuted and brutalized for their use and possession of the herb. Young men incarcerated for marijuana ended up with a criminal record, which marred their future prospects of advancement. It was noted by the legal regime that they had failed to prevent access to marijuana by children.
So Cassandra, if I could interrupt you here. Cassandra, if I could interrupt you here, I know we did discuss the findings of the report, and throughout we can give some of the findings that came out of the report. But I know Eugene wants to jump in on this very early. He did give a hint. So if we could keep sharing some of the snippets throughout. But I know Eugene wants to get going because I think he has another assignment to attend to this evening. So let's facilitate him. And probably, what's the jump-off point? We're still awaiting Dr. Fletcher to join in. He did come on the test. And I think somehow we lost the signal, so we're hoping that he will join us soon. But Like I said, I remember at the start, Rita Mali wanting to get high, and there's been this debate, but although it had gone quiet, you've mentioned that CARICOM has brought it to the fore again. So, Syisha, some people would like to hear from people like you before we go to Eugene. What is your overarching thought on this whole process that has started?
Well, first of all, it's a good thing that we're having this discussion.
Don't forget to unmute your microphone, Syisha.
Is it? It is on mute.
Right.
First of all, it's a good thing that we're having this discussion. The report did provide a way for us to even have this discussion, because without it, it would be less of a background to start with. At the same time, the beginning of this discussion did not just start with the report. It is nice that the report allows us to speak about it more openly. However, I think we haven't actually been speaking about it as openly as we can and need to be, to actually come up with the best way forward in terms of legalization or decriminalization of cannabis. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, Dr. Gittens, what are your thoughts?
Just Eugene. Yeah, Eugene Gittens is fine, not doctor. Well, from a sociological perspective, attitudes, society is not static. Society changes with time. It's fluid. And over time, our norms, our values, our attitudes, and even our laws get changed. We create the change, actually. So we maybe at a different time would have thought from the information we had, we operated on that information. And now with new information, obviously, change is inevitable. So some of the things that have created some of this change is that I think a lot of people consider many of the laws on marijuana now to be sort of draconian, outdated, unfair, all those things, counterproductive. The very important one too is that it criminalizes our young people, especially our young men. There's so many, young men who are in jail, for smoking a joint or having a couple of joints. That is totally unnecessary and ridiculous, really. And you also give people criminal records. When you have a criminal record, it affects the rest of your life, really. So there's that. And then there's, of course, the violation of religious rights, especially for the Rastafarians. And then from a functionalist perspective, it's one of the perspectives in sociology, people would see the benefits to the state, so the benefit to the state economy, because there's potential benefit there, whether it be for licenses or what have you. Of course, we'll come to that, I'm sure, but I don't think personally that, there's so many people who have jumped ahead of us that I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of money to be made from all this, but there is money to be made. But a lot of people who are way ahead of us. So we'll come back to that. And then, of course, you have the functionalist theorists who would argue that, criminalization of marijuana disproportionately affects the poor and the marginalized. Those are the ones who get the brunt of these kinds of laws. The other people.
You're using the word criminalization of marijuana. But for the listening audience, can you explain the differences between the legalization of marijuana, the decriminalization of marijuana?
Yeah, well, basically, decriminalization means that it's no longer going to be a criminal offense, right? So you wouldn't be. My understanding of it is that when it's decriminalized, it's still not fully legal, but it wouldn't be a criminal offense. You wouldn't get a record. You may get a ticket. I don't know what the plan is. You may get a ticket, you may get a fine, but you wouldn't get a criminal record. So it's decriminalized. The criminal part of it, in terms of how it affects you, will be removed. But to just go down the list of what I was talking here, another important thing is that I was up to sort of disproportionately affecting the poor and the marginalized. And also, a lot of the funds we use to police marijuana and to burn down fields and to whatever, all the things we do, a lot of those funds could be used for other things, like creating opportunities for people, addressing poverty, addressing unemployment, social inequalities, things of those sort that maybe sometimes may lead to sometimes more marijuana use. So if you address those problems, you may also be taking care of some other ones. And then certainly there is a very important one that people need access to medical marijuana. People would like to have access without having to get arrested to try to get some marijuana to use for medicinal purposes. So like those 61% of Grenadians who believed in 2018, when the CARICOM study was done, that marijuana, what they actually believe is that marijuana, the prohibition of marijuana should be removed. I agree with that. And I certainly agree that at this time, I support the decriminalization of marijuana.
So you do see the decriminalization or the legalization of marijuana having positive impacts on Grenada, right, based on what you have just said.
Right.
But can we, Syisha, Dr. Gittens, Eugene, Syisha, if you can, for the Rastafarian community, what are your thoughts on the decriminalization and the legalization of marijuana?
Well, the decriminalization, that's a good first step. It addresses a problem that actually exists that needed to be addressed a long time ago. What we would like to see is an actual bill put forward that legalizes the plant so that the whole entire genome of the plant needs to be legalized so that we can explore every aspect of this plant. Because there's so much to explore. There's so much Right now, we keep thinking of marijuana as smoke. As the host said, we keep thinking of Rita Marley's song and getting high. And that's one of the least productive things you can do with this plant. But you can still, doing just that alone is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Think about that.
But
the least productive thing you can do with a plant.
If I could jump in here, Cassandra, and to the other panelists. So this whole perception that marijuana is just about getting a high. For most people, marijuana is just this thing that does not smell nice and is for Rastafarians to get their high. Educate us beyond that. For a Rastafarian, what beyond getting a high, how important is it for you beyond getting a high?
Well, if you start with the plant itself, let's just take a step back. Marijuana consists of two plants, male and female. Female is what we're accustomed to hearing and smelling, because that's what people smoke. That's where you get some of the medicine from. However, the male part of that plant, we call hemp. That's where you get things like textiles, boards, plastics, hemp, crete for concrete for building houses. And you still get CBDs out of that also. So you still get medicine out of the male plant as well. That's the starting block where we need to start from. You cannot use the male plant to get the effects of the female plant because it doesn't have the flowers to do so. For the Rasta community, just in terms of our quote-unquote religious beliefs, our way of life, the plant is our sacrament. That's where we start from. So even if people wanted to argue anything else, whether it's criminal or not, because we have a legal right to practice our religion, our faith, and this is our sacrament, this is another reason why it needs to be legal, so that we can practice our faith without prejudice. The fact that it also can build an economy and your society from infrastructure to finance and everything in between is also another reason why we're pushing it like this. And this is the reason why I said smoke is not what we're pushing. Anyone saying that this is about smoke has lost the message. The message that we're pushing is to create an economy in Grenada where we do not have to be dependent on too many people outside of Grenada.
People who believe that marijuana has negative impact, aren't those justified concerns?
Certainly, certainly they are. I want to just state my position as opposed to my brother's position. At this point, and I know this is a controversial issue, but at this point, personally, I believe in decriminalization, not full legalization as yet. I think it should be a gradual process, and we could talk into some of those reasons why. But to answer your question, of course, they have genuine concerns, and actually, that's one of the reasons why I believe in decriminalization at this point. So, for example, as we go about trying to decriminalize, so it's still an offense, but it's not a criminal offense. You do not get a record. As we're about to do that, there's something we need to pay close attention to how we roll this out. In particular, we need to be very careful with our teenagers and adolescents. Now, the reason is that marijuana, at that age, those tender ages, teenagers, adolescents, marijuana can affect brain development. And that's clear, that's there. Unless things change, right now, the way the science is and what science is telling us is that marijuana affects brain development in very young people, teenagers, adolescents. So whatever we do, we need to protect that age group because this has serious effects on memory, on learning, on intelligence, and on impulse control. Those are the main areas. So normal brain development in our teenagers is something that every parent, of course, myself included, would want to ensure in our children. So another thing about marijuana we need to be very clear about and understand carefully as we unroll this is the impact of marijuana on judgment, on motor coordination, and it delays reaction time. So for example, driving. We already have a big problem with people driving, drunken drivers, accidents. I actually personally don't even like driving on Friday nights or Saturday nights because of the number of drunken drivers on the road. So now we may be adding something into that mix. So those are things we need to pay attention to. No, having said that, I would say to my Rasta brethren, and I've been around many Rastas, I've played music with, Jamaicans and many Rastafarians I know personally. And I would say, for people, marijuana affects people differently. And people who, have been around marijuana, it may not affect them the way it may affect you. So there's that difference too. But what is clear is the need to protect our adolescents and our teenagers in anything we roll out.
May I rebut?
Sure. Go ahead.
I agree with everything you say. This is one of the reasons why we think it should be legal and well regulated. So, for example, one of the concerns we have about cannabis is the criminal aspect of it. Mm. Decriminalizing doesn't necessarily take care of that. It actually kind of incentivizes criminality in the sense that if we say you can grow 3 plants or 4 plants and you can have, let's say, an ounce, the person that cannot grow 2 or 3 plants, where does he get his cannabis from? We did not address that. So somehow the decriminalization will have to address supply, grow, production, sale, distribution, all of these things. And just decriminalizing, saying that it's not an offense anymore, doesn't actually address that. So in the meantime, between decriminalizing and legalizing, we have this gray area where all kind of illegality can happen, and which is what we're saying we're trying to prevent. Secondly, on the young people aspect, the way how we would like to see the bill drawn up, no one under the age of 21 is allowed to ingest cannabis without a doctor's and a parent consent.
Right.
We are advocating for that. We could do 18 or younger because the laws here allow for certain things. However, because of that thing you mentioned where the developing brain is still developing all the way to 21, and the age of driving and legal alcohol should actually be that. Mm-hmm. We're saying that's a win. That's something that we can agree to, that if you're going to consume cannabis, a minimum age of that should be at least 21 if you're going to do it recreationally. If you're going to do it medicinally, you need the doctors and the parents' consent so that young people aren't getting caught up into this thing. At the same time, this is one of the reasons why I've been doing what I've been doing, is trying to educate people, get them past the level where we are so that they can understand cannabis is way more than just smoke. And once people start understanding what the vast and varied amount of things you can do with cannabis, most of the people that are interested in it stop interested in it because of smoke. Because, for example, if you want to consume cannabis, you don't have to smoke it to consume it. There's many other ways to do that. Even if you just rub it in the palm of your hand or the bottom of your feet. So once people start becoming more knowledgeable about what this plant is and the capabilities and the actual properties of the plant and how we can use it to better our lives, I think that will go a long way to addressing and assuaging all the concerns of people who think that, well, once you legalize it, young people is just going to go crazy or people are going to just do whatever they feel like. This is why we have regulations. Earlier today, I was having a conversation about this, and someone brought up the point that we don't really enforce things here well. And as much as that is, we actually do, and we used to very well. It used to be more of where you didn't want to displease your elder or the person you respect. So, for example, if I left school and I have my school uniform on and I'm going to hang out, I would take my uniform on because I don't want people to see me disrespecting my school. I don't want Mr. So-and-so to go back and tell my parents, listen, where I saw your child earlier with his uniform on. We can police each other, but I think we're giving up and leaning towards fear more than confidence. And I think once we start speaking in a more confident manner about what we can do, people will start coming around. We will police each other. It's not hard. It's not like Grenada is that big. We know everybody here, and we know everything they're doing. So to the policing aspect, yes, there's people that will do quote-unquote bad things, but regardless of what we do, they're going to do bad things anyway. My thing is, if we do this properly, we can do it in a way where everyone who is involved in it doing bad things can actually pay into the system before, so that when they do break the law, we already have a way to take care of that. We don't have to depend on Dr. Eugene to figure out how we're going to get some money for him to put the person in jail for weed. Dr. Eugene don't use weed.
And on that note, Syisha, you touched the whole issue of legislation. A few months ago, our government announced that they're in the process of developing a legislation to address the issue of legalization or decriminalization of marijuana. You just made some suggestions as to what you think can be included in such a legislation. Eugene, what are your thoughts? What do you think should be included?
Well, before I answer, I want to just mention something my brother said there. Not to belabor the point too much, but I think we actually have a poor record of, unfortunately, of enforcing. I think you said it actually, of enforcing stuff, I mean, think about it. How long we've been talking. I mean, of course, there are a lot of reasons for it. It's a small country. We don't have a lot of resources. We have to figure out, prioritize where we're going to spend a little bit of money we have and that kind of thing. But it's been a while now, for example, that, you may think I'm joking, but I'm serious when I tell you, I actually, unless I have to go out on a Friday and Saturday nights, I don't go out because of the number of accidents that, happen in front of my house sometimes. So a long time now, we've been talking about a simple thing like a breathalyzer to test people driving drunk. I don't think it has really fully come on stream as yet. And added to that, even in the States now, where a lot of this is rolled out already, there is no federally approved way to check drivers to see if they're driving under the influence of marijuana. So those things are things that are gray areas and things that, we would really have to look at seriously as we move forward with this. If we can't handle what's happening with alcohol, then we can't add any of the problems that adding marijuana to that mix may cause. And what happens also, and it's, and my brother is right too, because some of this stuff is already happening. Already young people are mixing marijuana and alcohol and all that's going on, probably already. So it's something that even is already out there. But to come back to what you asked me, what are some of the things I would like to see in the legislation? Actually, it's very simple. The main thing I would like to see in the legislation is what I said before, protection of our young people, adolescents, teenagers. That's the main thing. I'm not worried about folks like me. I mean, it's the young people.
But I mean, you've touched on a very important issue, and it's one of the things that in preparing for this, Cassandra and I looked at as a possible question. Straight up, people tell you they use marijuana to get a high, although Syisha thinks that we stress on that too much and we're majoring on the minor there. But intoxicated driving is a serious thing, as Eugene would have mentioned. And with it now coming the concern about legalization, how do you think we'll be able to prosecute? Eugene mentioned in the States the whole issue of how do you know? So Syisha, how do you think they will prosecute or identify people who drive under the influence of marijuana? Isn't that another complex issue we add into the mix?
It is a complex issue. However, we're making it more complex than it is. So there was a study done by the military, the United States military in the 70s, and a couple others, that studied the effects of cannabis on driving. And what they found was the people on average or higher that are under the influence of cannabis don't drive recklessly. What they find is they may drive too cautiously because they're under the influence of cannabis. So they may drive a little slower than most people, which, because of the speeds that are in America, may cause accidents to happen because people are not anticipating you driving that slow.
But Syisha, I'm just putting these out there as they come to mind. There was an accident about 8 months ago. It was a business place that was severely damaged, and a person who was on the scene heard the guy who was driving the car say, "Boy, it's only one joint I taken." He said that.
No.
So he's acknowledging that because he was high, he lost control of the vehicle.
And that's why I said it didn't say 100% of the people. It said a majority or higher showed higher caution when driving than average. I think Dr. Eugene touched on this earlier. When you're accustomed to a thing, it's easier for you to do everyday activities because you're more accustomed to it. There are some people that are just coming into terms in terms of finding out about weed. Those are the people, and the people who are accustomed to it, that we'll advocate to not necessarily try not to drive or use heavy machinery when you're under the influence of any substance. Any substance whatsoever that can impair you. And weed is a substance that can impair you. So we do not advocate driving under the influence. At the same time, there are tests available that can find out whether or not there's been weed in your system. The issue with it, that's the gray area, is weed stays in your system for a long period of time. So they can't tell whether or not you were smoking 2 minutes ago or whether you were smoking 2 weeks ago.
Right.
You see? So that's the gray area come in. However, and I will do this tongue in cheek with you guys right now. When you pull up on a man that was smoking a spliff, especially in his vehicle, you don't really need a test to find out if he was smoking a spliff. Not really hard. As the host said, it has kind of a smell to it. So
that could be masked easily, though. No, that's strange. No, without smells and stuff.
If we want it to be simple,
right.
As you can get it. However, the reality is, right now in America, serious side, because of even the pandemic and the fact that people couldn't go out too much, cannabis is causing many people in America to actually stop use alcohol and opioids. They're actually using it to get people off of opioids because it's not as addictive. It's not as habit forming. And if you do find that you have a habit of it, getting off of it is not as harsh as all the other substances you can get hooked to, including sugar.
And I think that's a good way to segue. You know, we need to talk about the positives too. Yeah, absolutely. You know, opioids, as we know, that crisis in the United States killed a lot of people. So there's no doubt in anybody's mind, in the scientist's mind, that marijuana is one of the best things for pain, right? For the management of pain in cancer patients, in just any kind of pain. So that is there. Other things too. It's not so conclusive in things like epilepsy, but there is some work being done there, and other areas. You know, so it's not all negative. I mean, the medicinal side of marijuana, you know, it's for real. And brother, you can talk about it some more, but it's real.
Yes, it is.
Syisha, if I could just interject. Cassandra, I think there's a cue from Master Control that you need to toss the break. I'll let you toss the break tonight. Cassandra?
Okay, thank you so much.
You need to toss the break.
For viewing us. We're talking about the decriminalization or legalization of marijuana here in Grenada. So give us a few minutes and we'll be right back. Gotta take a break to pay the bill.
Rubigas. Get cooking. Rubigas, clean, safe, and reliable LPG is the perfect solution for your commercial and everyday needs. For cooking at home or barbecuing, choose Rubigas LPG cylinders. Available in a variety of sizes from 20 to 100 pound cylinders. Rubigas LPG, clean, safe, reliable. Are you cooking with Rubigas?
Get Rubis, get going.
Are you looking for quality herbs and herbal supplements? Or are you thinking about having a complete body cleanse to jumpstart your health? Then no need to look further. Visit Nirvana Natural Health Clinic, Detox Center, and Natural Health Store. We carry a wide range of herbal products for kidney and gallstone cleansing, male sexual enhancement formulas, asthma and sinusitis, gas and bloating, acid reflux, constipation, arthritis, imbalanced hormones, female health issues, liver cleansing, weight loss, and so much more. Also available, colonic irrigation, holistic health consultations, essential oils, and diffusers. Look out for our online natural health store coming soon. Call 231-6642 418-7115 or 449-7753 to find out about our delivery options or to book an appointment. Visit us at Belmont St. George's, close to the Foliage, Monday to Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Nirvana Natural Health Clinic. Detox your way to health.
We've been down, but not out. It's been hard, but we've persevered together. We each have a role in Grenada's successful recovery, nourishing our families, guiding our children, caring for our communities, energizing our lives. We are strong. Together, we are Grenada.
We are taking pride in outstanding performance. We are encouraging and recognizing innovation. We are committed to continuously doing things better, with enhanced services coming soon. Yes, we are here for you. Check us out today for your financial need. GUT Credit Union, it's where you belong.
How going on, boy?
Hey, good old things.
Hey, Daisy.
Yeah.
Boy, in line, boy. Your house looking a real good day.
Boy, it's thanks to the hard-working and professional staff at the Housing Authority of Grenada. They handled me real nice. They did my plan, they did the construction, and I didn't even have to worry about a thing. They were there with me every step of the way, supervising the job, asking me about my concerns, giving me feedback as the house took shape. They were there from start to finish, and even put the keys in the palm of my hand. I give them an A++ for customer service.
Oh, it's people from housing bad, boy.
Boy, not bad. Excellent. If you're thinking about constructing your home, why not consult the Housing Authority of Grenada? You could visit them right down in the Sandino complex, or give them a call, 440-1015 or 440-1016. Or check out their website, hag473.com. They go handle you. They go jog your blocks, they go draw your plan, they go tote your materials. Hey man, where you going? The Housing Authority of Grenada is your choice for affordable housing and a stress-free construction experience.
And welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. This evening we're looking at the debate over decriminalizing or legalizing marijuana, and we have with us sociologist Mr. Eugene Gittens and Mr. Syisha Williams. He's the president of the National Herbal Association. Our co-host this evening is Cassandra Mitchell. Cassandra, it's over to you again.
Thank you so much. The public health and human rights approach to decriminalizing marijuana. Eugene, your thought?
Again, I missed that. Public health? Public
health, yeah, and human rights approach to decriminalizing marijuana.
Well, again, I more as a sociologist, more speak about the sociological aspects, but can't speak so much about public health, but certainly human rights. I mean, there have been so many human rights violations. I mean, like I said earlier on, the persecution of Rastafarians. I mean, that's the most obvious and severe one, and I just think whatever happens now as we're doing this, we need to incorporate those who suffered when they shouldn't have suffered to benefit from anything that comes out of this now, because certainly Rastas should be leading this, or should be involved, should be in this charge, in this new regime moving forward. But I also wanted to mention quickly, if I can, some of the other benefits of the medicinal benefits of marijuana. I talked about pain. It's also good for nausea and vomiting. It's used for cancer patients. Appetite stimulator. Anybody who knows about marijuana would know it gives you the munchies. So it's good for appetite. Anxiety, nerve pain, and a whole lot more, I don't know, but I've been trying to find out about glaucoma. I mean, some of these things you need to dig a little deeper, but there's benefits. There could be benefits there as well. So I just want to mention some of the advantages of the medicinal purposes of marijuana, which are very important.
Syisha,
we see Syisha smiling away as if he's just landed it in my lap. Take it away, Syisha.
Well, it's funny you mentioned glaucoma. So years ago, I think more than 20-something years ago, there was a doctor from Jamaica that actually patented a glaucoma medication from cannabis. And he could not get it into the American market. It's sold in the European market, but he couldn't get it into the American market. Because to get it in, the steps and hurdles he had to cross was so monumental, he just couldn't do it. But it actually, it works. It's been working. It's a really good medicine, and they've been using it for years now. So to add to that point in terms of the health industry or healthcare system and the benefits to that, the fact that people that use cannabis right now aren't really paying into that system, but then if they get sick, then you have to find that money to pay for them. That's one of the reasons why it should actually be legal, so that you can collect some revenue from it, so that the average person who doesn't use cannabis is not fitting the bill for everybody else. The fact that it's legal, when things are legal, people have less interest in it. It's not as juicy anymore. There's no taboo to it. So it doesn't make me look cool as a young person to walk around smoking a spliff if it's legal, compared to if it's illegal. I look like a bad man. Everybody gives me props. So there is psychologically, there's a lot of things that we can take away just by making it legal, or even starting with decriminalization, that will allow for the changing of our society, and not to the aspect of negativity, but actually to a more positive end.
But do you think that communities, I've listened to both of you, and I think you guys are bringing very, very great contribution to the discussion around this whole topic. But do you think communities are empowered enough to provide informed feedback to even the creation of legislations around the decriminalization or legalization of marijuana?
I'm glad.
I think there's a group. I forget the name, but I think I know Sandra Ferguson is involved in it. I don't know if you are as well, but I think they've been doing some consultations. I think those are very valuable, and I think consultation, public consultation, would be very good. I don't know if it's too late for that now, but I know they've been doing some, and I'm doing a good job with it. So I would want to, there's so many people who could add to this discussion. I mean, so the more people you have adding to any kind of discussion like this, I think the better the outcome would be for the nation, and that's what we're looking at, something that's best for our society,
Syisha, you were about to say something?
Yeah, the consultations. Ms. Ferguson and the CCC had a very beautiful dialogue. However, it is not enough. Since 2012, I've been in almost every community talking about this to almost everyone that would listen. The issue, though, is there's not enough people of Bishop Harvey or the Sandra Fergusons of Grenada who are actually having these discussions in the open so people can see them, so they can feel comfortable having those discussions. It's not we don't want to, but we're afraid. We're really afraid that having these discussions openly can actually get us negatively stereotyped or even in jail. So there's many people who love to have this and love to hear and participate and have beautiful ideas, but we're not giving them enough opportunity. And I think in terms of when you said public consultation, it was mentioned that public consultation will be held. And I think what happened with Ms. Ferguson, if that's all we're going to use to come up with a bill, then we'll have fallen short by miles, because there's so much more opinions and thoughts to put to this to actually come up with something that really reflects the best interests of our people. Even if that means taking the best from other places and bringing it and consulting amongst ourselves to see what best works for us, even if that's what we have to do, but we need to actually have robust consultation, robust discussions about what we want to do with this plan going forward.
Yeah.
But if we look at the whole issue of, the issue of,
go ahead, Eugene.
Sorry.
Yes, a lot of the work has been done already. There are many people who have gone this route before, so there's so much available data. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. So, like you said, a lot of the research has been done, a lot of work has been done. We just have to access it and then share it. So I agree.
But I was going to ask, we're making a case, right? So we know Jamaica is big on its marijuana production. St. Vincent like to boast that they have the best grade. They would go back and forth between Jamaica and St. Vincent. In the case of Grenada, really, do we have the capacity in terms of economies of scale to really monetize this? Or it's basically probably for sacramental use, you want to be certain that Rastafarians could really practice their sacrament without being prejudiced against?
Well, see, that's where we're missing the whole entire forest for the tree. Cannabis, like I said before, is way more than smoking. What you're talking about literally only aligns to the female and smoking aspect of this plant. We have pharmaceuticals, nutraceuticals, industrial aspects and applications to this plant that we haven't even talked about. So, for example, If I wanted to build a house that's 1,200 square feet, all I need is 2.5 acres of land. And if I grow that 2.5 acres of cannabis without selling it, without smoking it, just with that and some limestone and water, I can build myself a 1,200 square foot house. Just like that. The clothes we wear can be made from cannabis, and it would last us way longer and be healthier for us than we're wearing right now. Because a lot of the clothes we're wearing are synthetic. That's why they give us rashes. It's not breathable properly. We have to think about weed totally different than we've ever thought about it before. And as the brother said, all this thought, most of this thought have already been done. We knew this from since 1938. Popular mechanics.
I'm sorry to interject in here. Syisha, we have a caller.
Hello, good night.
Good night. Go ahead.
Hello, good night.
Yes, please. We're hearing you. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead. We're hearing you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I hear you all at all. Hello.
You go ahead. We're hearing you. Go right ahead.
Good night to you and the panel. I would like to make a contribution with a little poem. Could I go through?
Sure, go through.
Okay. Mr. Gittens, good night.
Good night,
Make
boss.
a survey to the world and you will see the amount of damage alcohol has done to society. Loss of life and a breakdown in families. Yet you have no problem selling it for we. But try to compare alcohol and the natural sense and see which one make more destruction universally. Bob Marley was crowned reggae king of the world with the influence in reggae music for the young and old. Bob Marley died a few years ago. Still, you could hear his song playing anywhere you go. You hear it on the street, on the radio, and even on the dance floor. Bob Marley, with respect to society, he said, "Excuse me while I light my spliff. Oh, Jah, I have to take a leaf. From reality, I just can't drift. That's why I'm lighting the spliff." It was used for recreation. It was used for medication. The good book said, the herbs on this land is for the use of man. The herbs on this land is for the healing of the nation. It's more, but I'll leave it a day. That's a day right now. Have a enjoy the rest of the show.
So, Syisha or Eugene, which of you set up your poet for this evening? Syisha, I see guilt on your face.
No.
Not me. That is a good poem, though.
Very good poem.
You know what I want to say, though?
Very good poem.
You know, what I would say is this. I would say that there's no doubt that marijuana was sold to us as being much more harmful than it really is, right? So it was depicted to be a harmful drug. And there were reasons for that, historical reasons. People wanted to sell alcohol after the Prohibition period, and they, decided to make marijuana the bad guy so they could sell their rum, whatever. So there's a lot of history to that. But at the same time, also, marijuana is not and should never be placed as a dangerous drug in the category of heroin and cocaine and crack and all those opioids, all those very serious drugs. It doesn't belong there, and it has been removed. It has recently been removed from that category of dangerous drugs to a lower category. The reality is, though, yes, marijuana is still a drug, and I don't glorify any drug, right? I don't glorify any drug, and I don't think any of us should. We need to look at things for what they are, and my point is slipping me, but yeah, not glorifying stuff, looking things for what they are, and if the rest of the point comes back, I will come back with it.
A good way to go right to a commercial break. Syisha, when we return.
I'm a winner, you are winner, we are winners, winners, winners.
It's the big one. Grenada. Imagine winning $25,000 and up to 6 times by scratching just one little ticket. Get your triple cash scratch tickets for a chance to live your best life. Win easy with Scratch. For just $3, match any of your numbers to any of the winning numbers and win the prize shown for that number. Reveal a money bag symbol and win the prize instantly. Triple cash scratch. In stores now. Must be 18 or older to play.
'Cause I'm a winner. From the moment that I get up, I'm feeling right.
Good evening, viewers and listeners. Welcome back. It's time for the National Lottery Authority's Lotto draw number 3221 for this evening, Monday, the 7th of June, 2021. The estimated jackpot for this evening is $64,000. Join me once again, Ms. Makiba Bain. She's representing PKF Accountants and Business Advisors. Let's find out what the free ticket letter will be for this evening. If you got your tickets, good luck. This evening's free ticket letter is S. This evening's free ticket letter is the letter K as in kite. That's K as in kite. And it's time to select tonight's 5 winning numbers for $64,000. Good luck. All right, check your tickets. First number is second number, 9. Third number is 5. Fourth number 23, and the fifth and final number is this evening's fifth and final is the lucky number 7. All right, let's do a quick recap. The free ticket letter was K as in kite. That's K as in kite. And the 5 winning numbers for $64,000. Let's recap. Double check your tickets carefully. First number, 24, 2, 4, 24. The second number was 9, 0, 9, 9. Third number, 5, 0, 5, 5. The fourth number was 23. That's 2, 3, 23. And the fifth and final was 7, 0, 7, 7. This has been Lotto Play and Win a Lot. If you got these numbers, congratulations to you. Well, don't forget to check in tomorrow at your agents. Get your tickets and continue to support sports, culture, and nation building. Have a good night.
By now, you should know that the early bird catches the worm. So, what are you waiting for? Put wings to your feet and head to your nearest scratch seller. For every quick 7s scratch ticket you buy at $2, the NLA gives you 7 chances at winning as much as $7,000. Scratch the entire play area for your 7 chances at revealing as much 7s and win the corresponding prizes. Win easy with Scratch. Must be 18 or older to play.
Good morning, Grenlek Meter Reader.
Morning, Mr. Meterman. I'm glad I caught you. Last month, I got a very high bill, and I don't understand why.
Last month, we were not able to access your meter, so we had to estimate the bill.
So what can I do to ensure that my meter is easily accessible?
Well, you can get your licensed electrician to move your meter outside of the gate or directly in front of the house.
Well, I'll consider that.
Grenlek, energizing our Grenada.
Are you looking for quality herbs and herbal supplements, or are you thinking about having a complete body cleanse to jumpstart your health? Then no need to look further. Visit Nirvana Natural Health Clinic, Detox Center, and Natural Health Store. We carry a wide range of herbal products for kidney and gallstone cleansing, male sexual enhancement formulas, asthma and sinusitis, gas and bloating, acid reflux, constipation, arthritis, imbalanced hormones, female health issues, liver cleansing, weight loss, and so much more. Also available, colonic irrigation, holistic health consultations, essential oils, and diffusers. Look out for our online natural health store coming soon. Call 231-6642 418-7115 or 449-7753 to find out about our delivery options or to book an appointment. Visit us at Belmont St. George's, close to the Fallage, Monday to Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Nirvana Natural Health Clinic. Detox your way to health.
Total is one of the world's largest oil companies with a top quality line of lubricants. Total Lubricants has a full product line from passenger cars, motorcycle, heavy industrial equipment, mining, trucking, agriculture, and manufacturing machines and vehicles. Total Lubricants, winning championships in motorsports, including Formula One and World Rally Championships. Total Lubricants are available at all Rubis service stations, leading automotive shops, and distributed by Huggins.
Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. This evening we're looking at the issue of legalization or decriminalization of marijuana. Our panelists this evening, sociologist Mr. Eugene Gittens and the president of the National Herbal Association, Mr. Syisha Williams, and our co-host this evening, Cassandra Mitchell. Cassandra?
Thank you so much for joining us back again. We have a caller. Syisha, we'll come right back to you. We have a caller waiting.
Hello? Hello, caller, are you still there? Okay, so the person probably got tired of waiting because they had come in just on the edge of the commercial break. So we'd encourage that person to call us back on 440-1252. Those of you wanting to join the discussion this evening, the number you can call, 440-12... Oh, so the caller is back. Caller, good evening.
Good night, everybody. And I would like to make my penny halfpenny contribution to your program. No, let me look at television. Right now, I am in support of decriminalizing ganja, cannabis, or however, because apart from trade and medicinal connection, marijuana, which is the same ganja, is a stimulant. It don't depress you like alcohol or crack and cocaine. And I believe that if you have something special to do, like you have to do some studies, you have to write some contract, you have to write some letter, you have to write a song, marijuana will stimulate your ability to do the best, that you have in you. So I am in full support of decriminalizing marijuana and continue to criminalize crack and cocaine, and if they could do that, the same thing to rum and cigarette, tobacco, that'll be all well and good. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your contribution.
Thank you so much, caller. The views expressed are that of the caller and not necessarily that of the panelists urging me in. Be very careful. Syisha, you were going to say something earlier? Go ahead.
Well, the thought is gone. I think we should move on to what the caller just said there. One of the things we need to be mindful of, the legalizing or decriminalizing of cannabis should not be looked at in a way as going against anything per se. It shouldn't be looked at as in, well, alcohol and cigarette is legal, so we should legalize that. That'd be like saying, well, since chopping a person is okay, we should be allowed chopping. It's false narratives that we shouldn't really be talking about. The fact is, legalizing cannabis should stand on its own merits and can stand on its own merits once people understand what those merits are. So when we have these discussions, which we should have, these are the things we should be talking about, not necessarily, well, weed is better than cigarettes or better than anything at all. No, this is the positives of weed. Here's the negatives that we've known of and what we thought of, and here's what we perceive. Here's what we think can happen and how positively it can affect us. And that side of the ledger actually outweighs the negative side. So when we talk about this plan, I would prefer if we can talk about it just in its own vacuum and not with other things or against any other thing.
But you see, if you use the accounting equation, you must have debits and credits equal in each other, right? So we'll park that there until I can have a discussion with my accounting teacher. I think we have another caller on the line. Caller, it's great to have you with us this evening.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, please. We're hearing you. Go right ahead.
Yes. Listen, Odette and the panelists, good night. I don't know whether or not you all had discussed this particular issue, but my question is, can a person become addicted to marijuana? You may tell me no. My question is, if the answer is no, then why is it that some people, after taking this marijuana, they develop this uncontrollable craving for it? And my other question is, final question, what can one do to stop the desire for it so that one can wake up in the morning without feeling the need, for it? That's my question. Thank you very much.
Syisha, we bring you in as the expert on this.
Well, I'm not. First of all, it's interesting to hear a question answered by the questioner. That was interesting. However, the easiest way to stop a habit is to start a new one. Trying to stop habits is very difficult, regardless of what they are. That's the first thing I would like to say. So to the caller, if you know someone that is quote unquote craving for weed and you want them to stop, find something that occupies their brain constructively. Find them something to do constructively, and they will not have that desire so much for weed. We have a lot of young people in our country from the age of, let's say, 40 down that has a lot of education in their heads from school and have absolutely nothing to do with it on a daily basis. Now, whether it's weed, cigarettes, sugar, reading, they're gonna do weird things behaviorally because they have nothing else to do. Blaming weed would be like blaming the sun for that. Everything on this planet has a tendency to form a habit if you do it long enough. However, like we stated earlier, if you do find yourself, quote unquote, craving weed or having an addiction towards weed, it is not as hard to get off as all the other substances that are habit forming, including sugar. So again, I repeat to the caller, I empathize with you, I feel your pain, because I know people like this. However, the easiest way for us to reverse this process is just to find things for them to do productively and constructively, and they won't have that desire.
But they say, Syisha, that a fisherman never says that his fish is bad. We could expound on that, but we have a caller who's been patient and we don't want to lose the caller. Caller, it's great to have you in the house.
Hello?
Yes, please. We're hearing you. Go ahead.
Yes, good night. Yes. I just want to add something to what has been said already concerning the decriminalization of the cannabis. I think it's a very, 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 very good idea, because I know of people myself who've been sick with seizure, cancer, and by using it, they got help. Okay, that's one. The other thing is that there is so many people outside there, like the Rastafarian, who use that to do whatever they pray me or whatever they do, and I find these people are very humble people in the society. And I think they should be given preference, or the government should give them a portion of land that they should go out and plant, but they must have some form of ID to identify who they are and what organization they belong to. So they can plant the herb, feed the children, get to feed the children, and maybe build a good home and use it for the medical purposes. And the other thing is, if the other people out there who may have lands, and if they just, for everybody, they would be the first ones to be making money off of that, where the Rasta people went through great tribulation in order to see this day come, to the decriminalization of that. So them should be given some kind of preference in this time, so that they could, what they've been working and struggling for all the years, they could see their prayers being answered. And I think that will even help the country, because then people would start using it for certain purposes. They will get healed. They will become, instead of having this the cocaine and the rum and this thing, what having them so violent and everything. I can tell you, I've been in the outer world and I see the people who use the marijuana. They are very calm people. People may see them doing it and maybe getting off key is because they mix it with other stuff like cocaine and so forth. But natural herb, they give you a natural love, natural vibe. This is my comment, and I really wish something good could happen and soon, because the economy is very bad. And the people who are struggling, if you look at it, is the Rastafarian, and that is the people that's helping to build the country. Have a blessed night.
Thank you so much. Cassie, I feel somebody put out some lines today and say, listen, call GBN tonight. And I can see the guilty
That's not me. That's not me.
He says, it's not me. You're such a good sport, Syisha, but I can see you grinning from ear to ear. Come on, your advocate has spoken. Let's hear the response.
No, because it's a beautiful presentation. It almost makes me don't want to say nothing. I'm like, hey, she could be the spokesperson. You did a great job.
All right.
But in all seriousness, there should be and has to be some care taken, some thought put into this for the Rasta community because of what the previous caller just said and other things. The fact that this law could possibly pass and the Rasta community will be left behind is very, 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 very heartening to me. I don't like this thing. However, at the same time, we have a responsibility as the community to stand up and be accounted. And until we stand up and be accounted, we cannot expect other people to account for us. We have to represent us. And we need to do that in a united way.
There's also the issue, Syisha, mentioning the benefits or that the Rastafarian community can get from this. But there is the argument in the public that what is available to anyone must be available to everyone in terms of equitable access. Your thought?
I agree. However, at the same time, everyone wasn't going to jail for weed. Everyone wasn't losing their land and property and freedom for weed. We were. Everyone wasn't being persecuted for using cannabis as your sacrament. We were. So, in the vein of equity and fairness, it would make a lot of sense to strike a bargain where those people who are wronged have some way of balancing that ledger. Because all those people who lost all their substance, where do they get it from now? The people who took those substances from them are about to make money with the plant that they said, I used to justify taking your substance. Now, how does that make sense? How is that fair or equitable? So somehow, the law, when it's struck, has to be done in a way where the Rasta community is protected, because what will happen and continue to happen will be the perpetuation of the same cycle of nonsense that brought us to this, which is taking advantage of the people that grow your food, build your schools and roads, and take care of your kids.
Yeah, I think countries like St. Vincent Cassandra, have already done stuff like that, where they have a grandfather clause, which would allow those who were doing this before, some of the Rastas and all that, to get license, even before others, or even at I think a discounted rate. So you can easily adjust those wrongs by just
discussion.
Your grandfather clause. It's easy to do. That's
right. Let me just ask us to stick a pin here, because we have a caller who's been patient for a while. We don't want to lose the callers, and we're quickly running out of time. And Cassandra, I know you wanted to go through the processes of how the sale will go, that kind of thing. But before we segue into that, Cassie, let's entertain this caller. Hello. All right.
Hello, good night.
Yes, please. We're glad to have you.
Now, we're talking about marijuana. Well, we say marijuana. I don't want to hear cannabis. Marijuana. Everybody know marijuana, right? So no nice scientific name in this sense. Now we know that anything as a medicine that's good for any illnesses, you must go to a doctor to prescribe, all right? And then, well, of course, you have some medication you can get over the counter. So if you go in to get Panadol just like that, everybody wants to get Panadol and just take Panadol without having a headache or maybe fever or some form of advice from the doctor, I think you'll be in a lot of trouble. Now we know this marijuana, people think more about smoking, and if it's something that is good for medical purposes, I think they need to go back to the drawing board and get in the medical form, they try to see what they can get out from it for medical purposes. It's not just talking about marijuana and decriminalizing it so that it will be on the street and anybody wants, apart from youths, let's say young teenagers, about, they say, what he said about from 21 up, right? You can be free to take it if ever. But this is a time when you can catch the youth that are more vulnerable to get themselves involved, and later on they get into the harder stuff. So I think it's best to let the medical field, right, Food and Drugs Administration and the scientists and so on, see what they can get out of it before they can bring it out in the market, rather than the government and people on the street just coming out and saying what they want to get it to be legalized. I think is a waste of time. Let us get the ground, the land, to grow enough food so that the young people and so on will eat and drink and be strong in the mind, in the brain, so that they won't have any desire to get into these things.
Thank you so much, caller, for that.
So
Thank
one
you
more,
so
one
much.
more I want to say again. 2 words. Jesus mentioned he plant weed. It grow wheat, and some enemy came and they sowed tons within the wheat, which was no good. So let us keep out the marijuana and let the medical field make the research and see what they can get out of it, and let the other people who decide they could decriminalize it behave themselves and let us wait. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Syisha, I see you're doing all kinds of things and your hand going up, but I know Cassie wants
I really would like to address something. 2 things he just said.
Okay.
He said, let the medical field do their jobs. Brother, they can't do their jobs with an illegal substance. The law needs to change for them to find that. So that's the first step. Waiting. When again? How long must we wait for our actual liberation? How long do we like to be slaves by other people? How long do we like subjugation? I don't understand, why are we so afraid of our own selves and our prosperity? The brother said the people that are seeking legalization, that wants to put something there so our kids can use to stepstone to harder drugs. Brother, there's actual research done that has proven this falsehood a fallacy, my brother. This is one of the red herrings they've used for a long time to keep us away from our own selves. There is no proof, medically or any otherwise, that weed is a stepping stone drug. As a matter of fact, like we stated earlier, weed is actually used to get people off of hard drugs. So I understand some people's concern and some people's fear. When all you know is fear, that's all you can spew is fear. However, brother and sister, whoever may be afraid right now, be not afraid of your own selves. You read the Bible, read again, and it will tell you this particular plant is for you. So since you mentioned the Bible, I will mention it to you too. Look in there, and it will tell you this was the plant that the anointing oil that Jesus put on himself was made from.
So
as a matter of fact, the recipe calls for 16 pounds of it.
Syisha, I'm pausing here so I could go through the scriptures. Point me to the verse. Google.
I won't say nothing after
Point
that.
me to the verse, man.
No, that's not my job.
You're not substantiating your point.
My job is not to feed you. My job is to make you a fisherman. Now go fish.
No, that's not fair. You've made a claim, and I'm asking you to back up the claim. Which part in the scripture says it was marijuana that was used as the anointing oil? Is that the oil that Mary poured all over him?
The christening oil, the original recipe for christening oil, is cannabis. Look it up.
All right.
I think Eugene wanted to say something.
I want to add to that, to that caller, what that caller said. Nobody's advocated, food is very important. No, we know we need to continue our farms and our food. Nobody's arguing against that. But the caller said a couple of things that were not quite correct. So, for example, as Syisha said, marijuana is not about smoking necessarily. That's just, one part of it. But there are two parts to the marijuana plant. There's the THC, that thing that makes you get high, and then there's the CBD, right? That has the medicinal purposes. And so what the caller was saying isn't quite correct. Already in the States, you can go to your doctor and get a prescription to use not the smoking marijuana to get high, but the CBD derivatives to treat certain things, right? These may come in the form of a liquid that you put on your tongue or behind, so there are different ways to do it. But the notion that I don't think people who are promoting this are talking about smoking marijuana necessarily. And Syisha has always made that point. It's not just about smoking marijuana. There's much more to marijuana than smoking marijuana. And the ingredient that has the medicinal purposes is the CBD. That is the part of the marijuana that medicine is interested in.
Okay, we have a caller.
Sorry, can I mention one more thing?
Syisha, wait. We only have like 4 minutes, and we have a caller who's promised that he or she'll be very brief, and we only on 4 minutes to wrap up. So let's just take them, and then we'll come back to the wrap-up comments. Caller, good evening.
Yes, good evening. I just want to help the Rastaman to answer a question. You had asked him to tell you which part of the Bible he read about the herbs. Now, if he tell you that, he would teach you to read the Bible like a jigsaw puzzle. So what you need to do is go to the Bible carefully and read it from Genesis 1 to Revelation 22, and you will see the whole truth for yourself. Have a blessed night.
All right, so that Syisha, that is your sister or that is your spouse. I declare that to be so. Not me.
I throw it up hands.
Cassie, we only have 5 minutes. It looks as though you need to have a second installment to this because I think 50% of the talking points that you sent to me, Cassie, you haven't gotten to touch on. So you want to take us through wrap up? You're muted, Cassie.
Let me unmute. Yes, I always forget that. We wanted to talk about the commercialization of marijuana if it ever becomes decriminalized or legalized, and how is it going to be accessed by sellers, buyers? Again, there was a question around equitable access to the herb. But briefly, Eugene, if you can, change is inevitable. The government is already talking about legislation. How do we change the perception of marijuana among community people who still have these negative connotations about what it does and its uses and benefits, and get them to contribute to the creation of of input in the legislation?
We need to hear their concerns. I think it's very good to hear people's concerns and address them with scientific information. But the fact of the matter is, like I said at the very beginning, the society has changed towards the attitude towards marijuana. It's become much more tolerant and liberal of it because of all the reasons I said. Times have changed, people have changed, perceptions have changed. I think the CARICOM study said 61% of our population are in favor of some kind of getting rid of the prohibition against marijuana. I think that was in 2018. I'm sure that number is higher by now. So I just think, education does it. Just educating people. That's what does it.
All right.
And then there's also the argument that the people who colonized and created that negative perception around marijuana are the ones who are going to get access to it in terms of selling and planting the marijuana quickly. I know
like we said, it looks as though we must have a second installment. Eugene, let's save this for the second installment. We'll have to save that for the second installment. We give Syisha 30 seconds for closing comments. 30 seconds only. And we'll wrap this up tonight and we'll talk about when we continue this.
Well, I'll leave you with a gem. One of the things that we would like to see done in this bill is that no planting of weed in any large scale. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you. I was hoping you were pointing to the gem would be the scripture that I'll find it in.
Oh, nah, this is going to be better. There should be no planting of weed here without growing equal or more of food. So anyone who wants to get a license for growing weed here must be able to show they can grow as much or more food and actually produce that. Even if they don't want to sell it, they must produce this food, or else you cannot get a license to grow weed here. We will not have a country where we got a lot of weed and we can't feed ourselves. That ain't happening. Sorry.
All right. Thank you so much for that. That was Syisha Williams, the president of the National Herbal Association, sociologist Eugene Gittens, and our co-host this evening, Cassandra Mitchell. Cassie, it's great having you along for the ride this evening. She was with us last week. She's a woman with a wealth of information, and hopefully she'll continue to lend her assistance to us. She's great at research and a lot of other things. A little quiet giant. Some people, I don't know, they run away from her. I don't know why. She looks quiet and peaceful to me, but we'll see what happens. Yes, Mrs. Eugene.
Campbell, could I get a closing statement in there?
No, Eugene. We're on 10 o'clock, so I said we'll have a second installment. So that's where we're wrapping up this evening.
We'll come back.
We'll come back. Thank you so much. Okay. And on behalf of the entire production team here at the GMA, I'm Odette Campbell saying so long for now, and we'll see you again next week.
All right.
Awesome.
My brother, awesome.
Yes, sir.